These playoffs have been very physical. It has been very entertaining, and we've had a lot. I feel like there hasn't been a game that hasn't had, a face to face, maybe a hard foul that needs to be reviewed, a flagrant foul. Sadly, some injuries, which we'll talk about. But the first couple plays that I want to talk about that happened that have been going around about, is it dirty? Was it a hard foul? Was it the other team's fault? Was it, whatever it is? Amin Thompson and Lou Dort. Um, the Amin Thompson one, and I'm not just saying this because the Thompson twins are some of my favorite players, but that just seemed like an unfortunate situation with the Jimmy Butler thing. He was trying to, Draymond was boxing him out, and Steven Adams was right next to him, and whoever else was trying to box out Steven Adams. It looked like Amen got stuck kind of between all them and ended up falling forward. And it just so happens that Jimmy Butler jumped up to get a rebound, and Amen fell into the back of his leg, and it kind of pushed his legs up in the air, and that's when he fell on his pelvis. Um, and he ended up missing game 3. The Warriors still ended up winning a close one. He's questionable for tonight, but that's a really unfortunate thing with what Jimmy means to the Warriors this season. So hopefully he can get better soon, but I don't think that was a dirty play on Amen Thompson. I don't think he meant it. And then I don't also think it was completely Draymond's fault either. I know that's like the two conversations that are going around. Well, it has to be either Draymond or it has to be Amen's fault. Not necessarily. It was just an unfortunate situation. And similar with the Lou Dort thing. Lou Dort was trying to chase down, I believe it was Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen threw, like a behind the back to Ja, and Lou Dort kind of slipped, and he was just in the way. And Ja went up to try and finish, and he got stuck on Lou Dort, and he fell um on his hip. He ended up not being able to finish game 3. That's when the we saw the Thunder come back from like a 30-point deficit, and then they ended up losing game 4 as well and ultimately got swept. Another unfortunate situation. Lou Dort was trying to, go chase down Scottie Pippen. Maybe the fake or the pass tripped him up. He slipped and he was just in the way. And Ja's gonna either go over you or through you. We've seen that throughout his career. He's gotten injured so many times from trying to do that, where he doesn't care. He's gonna go and he's gonna try and just go right through you if he can't go over you or around you. And ultimately, just another unfortunate situation. I don't think they were dirty. I don't think Lou Dort wanted to catch a jaw in the air and make him fall on his hip, even though they are different teams. Obviously, they're in the playoffs, but you're not on the court, 98.5% of these NBA players have no issues with each other, have no, beef with each other. They're just competing. These are some of the best competitors in the world. That's why they are where they are. And nonetheless, they're the best competitors in the world at this sport. And they've been competing their whole lives up until wherever, if they started basketball at 5 years old or they started playing basketball at 12 years old, they've been competing. And now in the playoffs, where the stakes are the highest, the playoffs kind of look not wide open, but it's not as evident as oh, the Warriors are going to be able to win, from like the late 2010s, or, even last year, my Celtic. It was a lot of people would have assumed that the Celtics would have won. This year, it's like, is it the Thunder? Is it the Cavs? Are the Celtics repeating? Are we going to get a surprise run from like a Golden State or LA because they're back in the mix? Um, and it just, these aren't dirty plays, but again, if we go through each series, I mean, I will admit, I have not watched much of this Cavs and Heat series at all, but we have seen the, Darius Garland and Tyler Hero going back and forth at each other about defense, which neither of them are good on defense. So I don't know why they're acting like this is like one of them is like Kawhi Leonard on defense or something, but none of them have been good on defense. They've been chirping for a couple games. It's a lose-lose for Tyler Hero because again, he can't defend. He can't defend any better than what Darius Garland can, and he's down 3-0 in the series, and he hasn't been playing the greatest in the he didn't play the greatest in their last game, which was on Saturday. He only had 13 on 5 for 13. It wasn't a great game. So it's lose-lose for that situation. There might have been other altercations that I just didn't see because again, I haven't watched a ton of the series, but there's that. Another series we have tonight, Golden State and Houston. We just talked about the Jimmy Butler thing, but other than that, Draymond obviously doing what Draymond does. Um, Dylan Brooks. We've seen. I think our men got a technical late in the game, their last game they had. We've seen the thing with Draymond and Jalen Green about painting nails and all that stuff, which I don't know why we're talking about things that aren't on the basketball court, but whatever. Some people were coming at Tari Eason and his parents for whatever reason. I think that was more of a fan thing, but we've seen a lot in that series too. Bucks Pacers, man. Oh, this has been cinema. This has been what we asked for. Even though the Bucks are down 3-1, Halliburton and Dame chirping at each other even before Dame was playing. This is also where we get into one of the, Dame was missed a few weeks at the end of the season from blood clots. He was ultimately able to come back pretty quick, and last night he ends up tearing his Achilles. He hadn't been playing great in the 3 games he's played. He in the playoffs, he's only averaging 7 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists. But to come back from something as scary as blood clots as quick and as great as he did, to just play 3 games and then most likely, I guess it's not 100% confirmed, but it's pretty much out there that he tore his Achilles. Um, Again, just super unfortunate. Obviously, it wasn't anybody's fault. That's one of those non-contact things that just kind of happened. But I mean, that's been a good series. We've seen Bobby Portis get in some faces. We've seen, Siakam has had his moments. Um, but it's just another series. Detroit, New York. I mean, Isaiah Stewart hasn't played in a couple games, but Isaiah Stewart, obviously, he's another one of those guys like Draymond, where expect a harder foul pretty much every game and maybe a tech. Even Ron Holland the other night, where Cade had to push him out the way, being a good leader, making sure his young guy isn't getting too in the moment. Because we've seen from Ron Holland, he gets pretty worked up. His temper flares a little quicker than some other guys, and it was showing in that game. And then on the other side, I mean, we've seen, like Cameron Payne, he's one of those dogs. They've been going at Cat all series. Clippers and Denver. I mean, James Harden and Aaron Gordon. Zubac pretty much saved the Denver Nuggets game because Aaron Gordon was going after James Harden after he pushed him. Zubac got in the way and carried him away because Gordon probably would have gotten ejected from that game if he kept going with that stuff. And ultimately, he ended up getting that game-winning putback, which that might be the closest game winner I've ever seen. I've looked at it 100 times, and honestly, it looks like he's still touching it the when the buzzer sounds. That's why dunks are so hard to gauge for game winners. That's why, I mean, he probably could have just laid it up or just dropped it in, but it ultimately counted. So there's nothing to really, there's nothing really to talk about there. Um, Boston and Orlando. I mean, this is obviously one of the series I've watched the most, being a Boston fan, but I mean, KCP and Cole Anthony they're going at the Celtics, specifically Al Horford. Al Horford and KCP have had multiple occasions in multiple games where they have just gone at each other. Whether in the first game, the KCP thing on Tatum where Tatum ended up missing game 2. Um, Cole Anthony on Jalen Brown ended up being a flagrant. Um, I mean, KCP and Al Horford again have got tripped up a couple times. Al Horford's been that guy that's got in their face as when something like that's happened. But I wouldn't. And then obviously the Goga thing on the Goga Bitadze, um, giving Porzingis a forearm again, especially that Goga one. The Goga one is not a. There's nothing wrong with that. That was again just another unfortunate situation. Thankfully, Porzingis was all right. He was completely embracing it, and he ended up coming back, hitting free throws, and played a little. He had to get 5 stitches, which you know they did that pretty quick, but he got 5 stitches. Again, they're playing. Orlando is a relatively young team with who they had a good playoffs last year, bringing Cleveland to 7 games. Um, this year, they've had a bunch of injuries. They're missing Jalen Suggs and stuff like that, but they're just playing hard, like a hard young team. And I mean, I don't, some of the stuff it's kind of like, and not just in this series, but some of the stuff in general, it's like kind of like, all right, come on now, like play hard, but we don't need to start something every game just because KCP is like shooting shooting not well. He's shot like 0 for 8 from in a game, or he's shooting, 1 for 7, like, or because Cole Anthony can't get his things up. And again, I'm not saying this as like a don't touch the Celtics, you can't touch them up, you can't rough them up, because that's what these teams are looking to do. We're the reigning champs, and they've got a lot on their head, they've got a target on their back, so they're going to get the best shot from everyone. And Paolo has played great. Franz is his numbers are good in the series, but his jump shooting is awful. Like he's got this weird little like hitch in his jump shot to where it's like super slow. It almost looks like Kyle Anderson, who they call slow mo. But that's been another physical series. And then I think, oh, I mean, Lakers Timberwolves. We is the I think the last series that we hadn't talked about, which has gotten although I can't remember too many things about the Lakers Timberwolves. I feel like we have seen like a thing with Nas Reed and something like that, but I mean, nonetheless, I mean that's literally there's something in every single series, every game that has happened. And I mean, I'm all for it. I'm all for the physicality and the stakes are higher now. It's not the regular season. It's not the NBA Cup. It's not the preseason. It's not the summer league. It's there's stakes now. Everyone's trying to prove themselves, especially these younger teams that like Houston, Orlando, even a little bit of Miami, Detroit, like some of these younger teams really need to want to prove themselves, and a lot of those teams are going up against more experienced veteran teams. Like Detroit's playing the Knicks, who is some of the most veteran players we have. Same with the Warriors and Rockets. Same with the Magic. And all these series. They have stuff to prove. And again, I don't think any of these players are dirty. There are certain players in the league that for sure do dirty things at times, and I'm not name drop. I'm not going to say who they are, but you can probably assume some of the players that have done dirty things in the past. Some of them are in the playoffs currently. Some of them are not in the playoffs this year, but there are definitely times where you know it seems like, okay, I've had enough. I'm just gonna foul as hard as I can, or I'm gonna do something you know, that's not a basketball play, as they say. But I don't. Again, a lot of these players, they're competing on the court. You get off the court, you're cool. They're chill. They're cool with each other. We just before Tyrese Halliburton after the last night's game had the first thing he said in the press conference before anyone asked a question was, he was shouting out Dame. He says how much he respects Dame, how much whatever. And you've seen him and Dame have had these moments every game so far where they've jawed at each other. They're doing whatever, but that's just the competitive spirit, and that's just what the playoffs bring out in some players. But most of these guys respect each other. There's nothing that, a hard foul on the court doesn't mean anything in the because you're playing. They're all doing the same job. They all have the same goal. They all want to do the same things. They all want to be better than each other, which is what comes with it. So I don't think anything wrong with anything that's happening in the playoffs so far. Again, some unfortunate circumstances between Damian Lillard. Um, some players that have missed a couple games um like Tatum has missed a game. Um, you know, who else? There's other people that have missed games from, you know, just unfortunate things. There's just Jimmy Butler. There's just players that if you're missing a game, it happens. And this is off topic, but a lot of people talk about when they're predicting playoffs or they're talking about a future series, they'll say, "Oh, if the Golden State Warriors are completely healthy, they should beat the Rockets in 5. If the Rockets are completely healthy and the Warriors are, then maybe they can bring it to 6, but the Warriors still win." There's not many scenarios where the both teams for an entire playoff series will be completely healthy. As much as we would love to see it, as much as we would hope for it, and we don't want injuries on any players, it just isn't going to happen. Most likely, you might get the first game or two where everyone's healthy, but someone's out. Someone's always going to be out, whether they are the best player or they are the eighth player on the team. So it's been a great playoffs. I don't think anybody should be, upset. I mean, again, you can be upset of your Dame, that isn't anybody's fault. You can be upset Jimmy got hurt, but you can't blame it all on Amen Thompson. Same with the Lou Dort and Jaw situation. Same with the Jason Tatum thing because they're the playoffs. Again, all these teams aren't making it to the second round anyways. You don't want anyone's career, season, playoffs, anything to be cut short, but it's sadly just a part of any sport, any baseball, hockey, football, tennis, whatever you watch. It's going to happen in everything. But I think these have been some of the most entertaining playoffs we have seen in a while, because it just seems so much more intense, and it's been a great watch. There's nothing I don't think that's happened has been insanely wrong. Sure, some players have gotten technical fouls, but they've been off most of the time they've been offsetting technicals where, okay, um, Draymond is going to jaw at Dylan Brooks. Okay, you both get techs, and that's like the warning. And I don't know how many ejections we've seen in the playoff. Honestly, off the top of my head, I don't know if I can think of an ejection in the playoffs because of like an altercation. But still, it's been a great playoffs. Only one team has advanced so far. That's the Thunder. The Heat most likely are going to go home tonight as they play the Cavs. They're obviously down 3-0. And we've got a lot of 3-1 series like the Pacers and Bucks, the Knicks, Pistons, the Celtics and Magic, the Wolves and Lakers. But then we've got some other series like Warriors Rockets. It's only 2-1. Clippers Nuggets are 2-2. So we've still got potentially a two longer series. And I also can't imagine all these teams that are up 3-1 are going to go home tomorrow night or the next night. So it's been a great playoffs. We'll keep reviewing things that happen. Um, the second round is almost here. We'll see who ends up there, and we'll review the Hoops All In. We did predictions on it was either last week or the week before, we did like predicting who would be through, who just thinking about, all these teams and who will win the series. But let me know what you think. Is there something else that you think is wrong with the playoffs? Is there something that you don't like? Is there, a series that is going longer than you expected, or somebody going to get upset? Let me know below. Um and thanks for watching. Again, we'll be back for more.